It was the sound of the old gate creaking that told me something was wrong. That gate had made the same noise for 40 years. My husband used to joke that even the house complained when someone arrived uninvited. That afternoon, as the rain tapped softly against the windows, the gate screamed louder than usual. I was sitting alone in the living room, wrapped in a shawl that still smelled faintly like him. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, each second stretching longer than the last. I wasn't expecting anyone.
When the door opened, my son and daughter walked in together. They didn't smile. They didn't hug me. They didn't ask how I was doing. They sat down across from me like strangers waiting for an appointment. That's when I knew. This wasn't a visit. This was a decision. My son cleared his throat, his eyes fixed on the floor. "Mom," he said, "we need to talk about some arrangements." Arrangements. Such a cold word. My daughter crossed her legs and folded her hands, rehearsed and calm. She had always been the organized one, the planner, the fixer. I nodded slowly. "Go on." "It's about Dad's property," she said, "and the savings." My chest tightened. "Your father's home?" I asked. "The one near the river?" "Yes," my son replied quickly. "That one." Silence filled the room. That house was not just property. It was the place where my husband proposed to me with a borrowed ring and shaking hands. The place where we struggled, fought, laughed, and built a life brick by brick. The place where he took his last breath while holding my hand. When the door opened, my son and daughter walked in together. They didn't smile. They didn't hug me. They didn't ask how I was doing. They sat down across from me like strangers waiting for an appointment. That's when I knew. This wasn't a visit. It's been closed for years. My daughter continued. You don't live there anymore. It's deteriorating. Like they were talking about an old machine. I visited, I said softly. I sit there. I remember. My son sighed, rubbing his temples. Mom, please understand. You're alone now. Managing all this is too much for you. Too much for me. I had buried their father. I had survived nights so lonely they felt endless. I had raised them with scraped knees and broken hearts. And now I was too much? What are you saying? I asked. We think it's best if we sell it. My daughter said gently. Use the money wisely. Wisely for who? I asked. They looked at each other. That was answer enough.
That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to the wind outside, remembering the night my husband died. How the room felt suddenly too big, too quiet. How I had whispered into the darkness, promising him I would protect everything we built. I remembered every sacrifice, every missed meal, every dream postponed. Before sunrise, I got dressed and left the house without telling anyone. The drive to the river house felt longer than usual. The road twisted through fields and trees, each turn pulling another memory from my heart. This was the road where my husband taught our son how to drive, where our daughter cried after her first heartbreak. When I unlocked the door, the smell hit me immediately. Damp wood, old paper, time. I walked slowly, touching everything like it might disappear if I didn't. The dining table where we argued about money, the window where my husband stood every evening watching the sunset, the bedroom where we whispered fears we never shared with the children. I sat on the floor and cried until my body ached. And then something changed. I realized the house didn't belong to the past. It belonged to purpose. Over the next few weeks, I made phone calls. I signed papers. I spoke to people who listened, really listened. people who didn't see me as a burden or an obstacle. When my children finally called, their voices were sharp with anger. "Mom, what did you do?" my son shouted. "The buyer pulled out. The agent says the house is no longer available." "I know," I replied calmly. "What did you do?" my daughter demanded. "I gave it away," I said. Silence. "I donated the house," I continued, "to a home for widows and abandoned women, in your father's name." The screaming came next. They accused me of betrayal, of choosing strangers over my own blood, of ruining their future. Then the line went dead.
Months passed. No calls, no messages, no holidays. Loneliness wrapped around me like a second skin. Some nights were unbearable. Some nights I talked to my husband's photograph, asking if I had done the right thing. But every time I visited the river house, I saw women laughing where sorrow once lived. I saw children playing where silence had grown heavy, and peace returned. One afternoon, while sitting on the porch, I noticed something that made my breath catch. The tree. It had grown taller, stronger, its roots pushing deeper into the earth, even after all these years. That's when I understood. Some things grow stronger when you stop trying to control them.
Back home, the silence was still there, but it didn't scare me as much anymore. I filled my days slowly. Morning walks, old books, writing letters I never sent. I wrote one to my son. I didn't accuse him, I didn't beg. I simply told him stories about his father, things I realized I had never shared. How he used to sing badly when nervous, how proud he was the day my son learned to ride a bicycle, how he cried quietly the night our daughter left for college. I never mailed the letter, but writing it healed something inside me. Another year passed. I stopped waiting for the phone to ring, and that's when it rang. My daughter's name appeared on the screen. For a long moment, I just stared at it. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel excitement, just calm. When I answered, her voice cracked almost immediately. "Mom," she whispered, "I didn't understand before." She told me about sleepless nights, about money problems, about how life had humbled her in ways she never expected. "I thought being strong meant controlling everything," she said. "Now I realize it also means knowing when you were wrong." I listened. That was all. "I don't need the house," she added softly. I need my mother." My chest tightened, but I didn't rush. "I never stopped being your mother," I said, "but I stopped disappearing for your comfort." She cried. Not loudly, not dramatically, just the quiet kind of crying that comes from truth. We didn't fix everything that day, but we started something new. Later that year, both my children came with me to the river house. They walked slowly, carefully, like guests. My son stood under the tree for a long time without speaking. When he finally did, his voice broke. "Dad would have liked this," he said. I nodded. "Yes," I replied. "He would have loved it." As the sun set, I realized something that took me years to learn. Being a mother doesn't mean shrinking yourself so your children feel tall. It means standing whole so they learn how. And if you're listening to this story right now, maybe you need to hear this too. You are allowed to protect your memories. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to choose dignity over guilt. Love does not disappear when you set boundaries. Sometimes that's when it finally becomes real. Subscribe my channel for knowing more amazing stories about my life, and tell me which country are you